to quote Omar from The Wire, it's all in the game.
I know Omar. Yeah, go on.
It's all in the game. That's my point. It's all in the game. Raising tiny humans so that they understand that what their meaning, what their purpose is, and how meaningful they are in a world filled with technology. All of it's connected, and to be able to affirm them in the best possible ways, and also to prepare them so that they know their relevance and they know their value.
Welcome everyone to FAFO Friday, where we talk about what matters to builders today, how we can build a future we actually want. I'm Dan Blumberg. I'm joined as always by Kwaku Aning. We're both independent technologists, and we're both off to South by Southwest in a few days. And if you'll be there, please drop us a line. We would love to see you, and we are planning a Future Around and Find Out Night Out. So go to futurearound.com, and you can learn more about the show. You can reach out to us. I'll also put my email address in the show notes. Kwaku, happy Friday.
Yes, sir. Okay, can I say this? Can I? Because I like to break the wall.
Yeah, do it.
It's FAFO Friday on a Wednesday.
Oh my God.
I know I ruined you right now, but it's great. But I want to say this because the world that we currently live in, who knows what will happen by Friday when you air this? And then people will be like, why aren't these knuckleheads talking about this?
Yeah.
So
who knows?
Technically it's FAFO Friday on a Wednesday.
You want to start with a bit of a victory lap?
I love victory laps. Yes,
victory
I'm not sure what we're celebrating yet, but let's do it.
Last week, we predicted some things. They happened. I definitely did not predict we'd be at war with Iran this morning. And we talked about how Thursday night was a big news night, and then Friday night was like, hold my beer. But predicted that Claude would be all right. Claude is top of the charts on the consumer charts for in the app stores.
Just pushed out OpenAI. As the top app. You're right.
Amazing. You stand for something and people like the thing you stand for, and then they're like, and this has a very like delete Uber vibe to it. And then second, I also said that I expected OpenAI, that Sam and OpenAI would take the Pentagon's deal, and they did.
Nailed it.
And then Sam was like, he tweeted like, oh, actually, we're going to add this, and whatever. And it's like, maybe you should have read the thing before you'd agreed to it, or read the room, more to the point. So anyway, that's me feeling like, all right, I think we saw some things that manifested.
So I'm gonna cut our victory lap short a little bit. Everybody saw it.
Yes, go for it.
You know what I mean? We saw it for the Super Bowl commercials.
That's true.
It was very obvious that
it's been a month.
Not only it's been a month, but not only was Claude going to be okay, but people are going to be like, huh, okay. And so this is a true story. This week, because sometimes I do AI training sessions for nonprofits, some companies or whatever, and I've been working with this nonprofit for a while, and they're based in New York, so I was there in the fall, and I did like a face-to-face. I was doing some stuff online, and when I was there, everyone's like, I was just polling people informally. Hey, which LLM model, which AI system do you prefer? And everyone's like, ChatGPT. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, I'm a big Claude fan. Like, I really love Claude. I love the interactions with it. And everyone's like, no, I don't know. I can't explain it. So fast forward to this week, I was like, all right, I was showing them this program. And I'm like, the default is Claude, but I know that you guys like ChatGPT. And everyone's like, actually, we've been hearing a lot about Claude. Maybe, I think we want to use that. We want to try that one. And so literally, the streets are talking.
Yeah.
It was so obvious. You stand for something. So that's the good. Let's talk about the bad. It's almost like you'd have a group of friends, and maybe you'd go out to bars, and you'd try to talk to girls or whatever. And, you'd have like your core group of guys where it's like, you're good people. You're trying to be respectful. You're making jokes. You're trying to get to know people. And then there was always the guy in the group who was just sort of like, bro, I'm just trying to meet. I don't care who I meet. I'm just trying not to go home alone tonight, and you'd always see that guy in the corner making moves on people. That kind of feels like Sam's vibe to me right now.
Oh,
you knew.
Well, they're losing like $11 billion, I don't know, a day, a month. I forget what, a lot. They're losing a lot very quickly. And so, I mean, this is when I left OpenAI like a month ago. And by the way, I posted that posting about why you're leaving OpenAI is the new, like, so I'm leaving New York blog post from like 5 years ago.
That actually triggered me. Because I did leave New York.
Did you write that post when you went across the country?
No, I didn't.
I mean, I left the city too. I'm in the Hudson Valley, so I prompted Claude to write that blog post for me because people like that idea so much. So, and I don't want to write in cliched way, and AI loves writing in cliches and tropes. So I was like, okay, here, like write me the blog post, and it wrote me a pretty spot on blog post of why I'm leaving OpenAI and moving to the Hudson Valley. I didn't prompt it to say Hudson Valley, but that's where I am. Maybe it knew that already.
It's a little scary, by the way.
It was a little scary. I know that part was like,
that.
oh, you maybe you do get me. Anyway, but when I left OpenAI, it's because they don't have a business model, and so they're going to try all sorts of desperate stuff. Sora, remember Sora from a couple months ago? Like, not great for the world that you can just dial up a deep fake and it doesn't indicate that it's that, or and that's why I knew OpenAI was going to do this, because they need the revenue. $200 million contract with the Pentagon is nothing for Anthropic to sneeze at either. They need the money too. But because they have Claude Code, because they have a bit of a moat with like developers loving them, and now like more than just developers learning to love them, they have a bit of a better business model. Google, I think, has the best, because Google can just lose money forever because they've got this incredible
Isn't that
ad business.
Always the best business model? We can just lose money forever because we are.
Well, if you want to innovate, it is, because you can keep throwing money at R&D projects, and almost by definition, like 9 out of 10 R&D projects are going to fail. So you have to throw a lot of money at them, or at least you have to like run them in a really great lean way. And you can listen to my episode from last year, South by Southwest, with Astro Teller.
I was just going to cue you and say, if only,
if only,
like dream sequence music, if only there was a conversation that you had with someone who
with the head of Google's the Moonshot factory. Yeah.
Specializing in losing money to find new amazing things.
Yeah. Which led to, by the way, we're about to go to South by. We're going to see some Waymos driving on the streets there, and that came out of the Moonshot factory.
So, do you have Waymos in New York?
No. And in fact, there's actually there's just been some. I need to ride one in Austin. I did not do that last year, and because I haven't actually had that experience yet. I saw them. I saw them like brake for me when I like crossed the street at a red light, and I was nervous. We talked about that. Talk about that.
No, but talk about that again, because some people may not have heard this thing from last year. The idea of the go ahead.
The choreography. Yeah. So there's a woman named Katie Kwan. We saw her speak last year she used to be at Google X. She was a dancer, and now she is a specialist in robot choreography, which is basically the art/science of how machines interact with their environment, with humans in their environment. So, for example, a Waymo car probably could like speed up to a red light and like brake really aggressively, and it would scare the crap out of everyone around them. Or it could brake really slowly as it approaches the red light. Or it could brake too slowly, going to annoy everyone because it's going too slowly towards the red light. That just being one of like a million examples of like, how do you choreograph this machine? I think we're going to see at South by like a lot of talk about humanoid robots. They're kind of hot right now. I frankly don't understand why we need robots that are shaped like humans. But if we do, again, they need to like interact in a kitchen with maybe a real human or another robot or like things nearby. You need to choreograph them. So I was admiring the Waymos in the street last year, that they didn't run me over, basically, and that they didn't scare me even as they were like maybe going to run me over.
So here's the thing about the Waymos. Now I'm going to connect it to Katie Kwan. First of all, Katie Kwan's job is like one of those crazy jobs where your parents are trying to describe it to their friends, and it's just like, she dances around the robots now. She used to dance in front, on the stage. Now she dances around the robots. This is her job. I'm going to make this connection. When you're in the Waymo, it's like you're driving with one of your parents' friends that drives really slow, where you're like, you can make that, in your head, you're like, you can make that light. You can make that light. And that Waymo starts, thanks, Katie. I'm not saying this is Katie's fault, but that Waymo is like, that's going to turn yellow. I'm just going to let off the gas now.
It would be amazing. I'm thinking now of putting the experience, it mostly happens like kind of late at night when there's not a ton of traffic in Manhattan, but you've ridden the wave of green lights, like going up 3rd Avenue or something like that, right?
Oh, yes.
You have to go, I think it's like exactly 25 miles an hour, and you can just ride a wave of green lights from like, Houston Street to like Harlem.
How do you know what's something like that?
But I think it's that. It's around 25, 30, 35 miles an hour. It's definitely not faster than that. If you go too fast, then you start like getting to the red lights before they've turned green. If you go too slow, then you just get stuck. You have to wait for a red light.
I've done this, but I just thought it was
but an autonomously driven car would know precisely the speed to go, and it would ride that wave,
Eventually, I think it would learn it.
It would learn
I think
pretty damn
I
quickly.
think it would learn
This
it.
is not a complicated one. I mean, as long as there's not traffic and trucks and double park whatevers that slow you down, that's why usually it's like a 2 a.m. kind of thing where you're like, oh yeah, we can ride that wave right up a one-way street. It has to be a one-way avenue, right? 3rd Avenue,
Which
going
begs the
uptown or
question:
something.
why are you driving at 2 a.m. going up 3rd Avenue?
I am not. It has
Okay,
been a long
okay.
time. Oh, what I did want to say though is that self-driving cars in New York State, there is the New York City Taxi Alliance is not surprisingly very anti self-driving cars, and there was a law that Governor Hochul signed recently to introduce self-driving cars, not I think in New York City, but in other smaller cities like Syracuse and other places in New York. And now she's getting pushback, and it may or may not happen. So it's really it's a regulatory question. It's not can the cars handle at least some of these mid-tier cities. It's a will politicians allow it? That's where we're at right now in New York.
Which begs a question, because I feel like today, I think maybe we'll call today a rabbit hole episode, because you're saying this and it's giving me an idea, or it gives me ideas, and I ask you random questions, and and then down the rabbit hole we go. So, do you think that is typically a barrier for innovation? Not necessarily, at least at this point. Regulatory environment.
For sure. I mean, it depends how fast and loose these companies play. I mean, I've already invoked Uber once in this episode. Uber played pretty fast and loose. Airbnb played pretty fast and loose, and they just kind of got stuff done. And I don't necessarily think that's wrong all the time, because if we waited all day for regulation, we would wait all day. And I've worked in banking and fintech, and you have to be a lot more careful there because those rules are a lot stricter. But Robinhood's played fast and loose. They were, right?
Have you heard of crypto?
Yeah. Crypto's not having a great month, by the way. Speaking of what a month, not a great month for crypto. That things are not looking so rosy, despite the Trump administration's embrace. I saw Mr. Orange having a bit of a shit fit a couple days ago. So there's some new the Clarity Act is a new thing that he wants to pass. It wasn't enough to pass the Genius Act a bunch of months ago. Bitcoin's taken a nosedive. I don't know. I'm curious what we're going to hear about blockchain when we go down to Texas next week.
Probably not as much as we should. But I think we should stay tuned for that, because people don't talk about blockchain. People talk about crypto. You know what I mean? I feel like, what was it, 22? It was all about blockchain.
Oh yeah.
Not even blockchain and crypto.
Well, that was back in the NFT era. Now we're in the stablecoin era. I mean, stable coins are the hot thing right now, and those are actually useful. I'm
raising my eyebrow right now. I said there would be someone at South by, and I'd raise my eyebrow when I point to them, and you know what that means? That's what stablecoin is. Okay. Because NFT was the really fancy stuff, and the stablecoins, they're those guys.
Okay. They get it done.
I'm trying to keep this G-rated.
I want to move on to South by. What are you excited about? What are you excited to learn more about this year?
I feel like up until this year, there was a formula for South by, where it's you go, the beginning of it is all about interactive, which is now innovation. Then the film comes out, then, and then you're just living in those worlds, and then music starts, and then innovation ends, film ends. But the interesting thing was always the end of the innovation part of South by were always the nascent technologies. So it'd be AI, it'd be a lot of VR, AR stuff, which we're hearing less and less about these days. And
Except there's this company called Meta. Where'd they get that name?
And Dan's making the jokes. He's back, people.
Let's go all in on Meta.
Or just go all out on the name Facebook, because it's been tainted. Let's a little look over here action. So last year, shout out to our buddy Anish, everything was about quantum. Everything was about quantum at the end. And so I felt like I didn't go to enough quantum sessions. And so I'm really excited to hear more about that. So to your point, the things that I'm most excited about, one is learning more about quantum and see what's happened in a year since last South by. The other thing is there are all these sessions around all right, when AI does all the work, what happens to us? Or what makes us human in the AI world? And how do we bring taste and humanity and empathy to AI and technology? And what is our value as humans? Those sessions are very, very interesting to me because, and I know we've talked about this in prior episodes, but the idea of our humanity becoming a commodity as we automate more and more around us. I think that is a really interesting space. And I'm really curious around how I'm going to say the tech crowd or the techno crowd acknowledges and talks about that.
Yeah.
What about you? What are you into?
I mean, a bunch of things you just mentioned. I feel like quantum's just going to be one of those things where like it pops and like, holy shit, it works. And then everything changes incredibly quickly. It'll be a Chat GPT moment when it happens, if it happens. I think and what I recall from the session I went to last year is it's a when question, not an if. It's like, can we build these things reliably? It, by the way, intersects with blockchain, which is that when the moment that people are scared of is that when it happens, when quantum computers become a thing, blockchain doesn't work anymore. That's the fear because quantum computers can crack basically any code. And
I'm gonna disagree with you. I know you love it when I disagree with you.
Yeah. What do you got?
It does not work in the way that we think about blockchain now. We think about blockchain now as like, here's a secure way to store information based upon these codes, whatever, and or the math behind it, and it's something that you can't break. And so it's like you're taking a Polaroid. And quantum, we're thinking about it as the key to that lock. So the great thing about this is that this can unlock any sort of encryption. This will be the antidote
and just to be clear, the reason it can do it is because it can parallelize like 1,000x more computations per second than a normal computer. So I'm
going to do the kid version of what you just said. It's a choose your own adventure. Where you can go left, you can go right, but instead of I'm going to turn to this page right now, someone's listening to this. It's like, I don't know what a choose your own adventure book is. Someone's listening to this and saying, I don't know what a book is. But essentially, instead of I guarantee you. But the idea of choose your own adventure book, you'd be like, all right, you've reached this point in the cave. If you want to turn right, go to page 26. If you want to go left, go to page 16. And with quantum, you can basically you can read both tracks simultaneously or multiple tracks, which is what you just described.
Yes.
My hot take.
Everywhere, all at once.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. This is the Quantum South by. So my hot take on it is, if we thought about quantum less around how it can unlock encryption and thought about it more as an accelerant for AI, how could you use it with blockchain? We are looking at quantum from the world that we live in now, but we can't picture how quantum would be used in the future. Here's a tie-in. Beth Shapiro. Does that name sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. Beth Shapiro, Chief Science Officer of Colossal Biosciences. She is the guest of this week's interview episode. Colossal is de-extincting species. So they have recently brought back the dire wolf, 3 dire wolves, one of which, of course, they named Khaleesi. And they're living in an undisclosed location right now. We talk about, there's a controversy. Are they dire wolves? Are they gray wolves with 20 genetic edits? What's the difference? They're really big wolves. They have a lot of characteristics, traits, alleles. Maybe that's the word of the day
Is that the word?
Dire wolves? No, that wasn't the one that I was thinking would be the word of the day. Honestly, she used the word allele when I was talking to her, and I was like, allele? God, I remember that from like bio, but what the hell's an allele? Anyway, all right, how does Beth Shapiro relate to quantum? How does de-extincting species relate?
Here we go.
Okay.
In your conversation, I know I'm like weird connections guy. In your conversation, you guys were talking about how in the genetic space, a lot of people were referencing like sending a man to the moon. And all the technology that was involved with that. And as a result, they were focused on sending a man to the moon. They built out all this technology, but later on they realized, oh, this technology could also be used for X.
Right.
And I forget the example that you used in the podcast, but listen to the episode.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of things. I mean, in the original, like we've talked about moonshots already. This is the original moonshot to the moon. Not only did American astronauts get to the moon, but we also discovered a lot of things like useful technologies along the way, like GPS. There was some type of hearing aid that was actually discovered on the way to like getting people to the moon. Tang, very famously, one that was not invented for the astronauts, but was very useful. It was sort of a more technology adoption. It was Velcro. People thought that Velcro.
Exactly. We all had Velcro shoes at one point.
Yeah.
That was the hotness.
And so, by the way, just quick story on like using AI. When I was prepping for that interview, I asked AI, like, what are some examples of technologies that were birthed in the original moonshot or in that period of time? And it gave me Velcro. And I was like, I don't think that's right. Like, I feel like I had this vague memory of like learning about the birth of Velcro, and like some scientist like goes for a hike with his dog and the dog gets a bunch of burrs stuck to it. And I remembered correctly, that actually is the origin story. And so again, it was NASA popularized Velcro. They didn't invent it. And so it was just an example. I'm mentioning as like an example of like trust but verify what AI gives you. Like I was very proud of myself that I like did that. I didn't just like say that, even though I think probably in the popular history, like Velcro,
we all
was
get this
invented
wrong
by NASA. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which is why AI has this info.
Exactly.
So, all right. So the idea, all this technology was invented for one purpose. And then later on, we found these other uses for it. Right now, quantum is being invented, but 10, 15, 20 years from now, we will have other uses for it that we couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't see because it is literally around the corner. It's at the edges of our imagination. And so when people are like, oh, hey, we're going to use this technology, but then it's going to unlock all the banks and it's going to do all this crazy stuff. Yes, I understand that fear, but I think a lot of that fear comes from a lack of either strategic foresight, being able to think into the future, think on the edges of what is possible. And that is what excites me about quantum.
Maybe people are having trouble thinking right now because they're being laid off in massive numbers because of AI. Or theoretically because of AI, whether it's actually AI or not, we talked about.
Is this a transition to the block?
No,
right
it's
now?
just the point. Okay. No, it's not a transition. It's just a like, things are moving really, really fast. And like,
aren't they though?
It's kind of painful to think about like another massively disruptive force like quantum computers might be when we're still digesting what the hell we're doing with AI and everyone's AI washing their layoffs right now. And so I don't blame people for not wanting to think about this at all. I mean, we're off to a conference where it's like, the like main course.
The whole point of the conference is to think about this stuff. But yes. Yeah. There are two roads there. Speaking of choose your own adventure, you can, take the hike into the unknown, or you can bury your head in the sand. I know those are two extremes, and there's definitely gray area in between.
Yeah, or you can just raise tiny children, and like make good humans as best you can.
All of it's all connected. It's all, to quote Omar from The Wire. It's all in the game. I know
Omar. Yeah, go on.
It's all in the game. That's my point. It's all in the game. Raising tiny humans so that they understand that what their meaning, what their purpose is, and how meaningful they are in a world filled with technology. All of it's connected. And to be able to affirm them in the best possible ways, and also to prepare them so that they know their relevance and they know their value.
Yeah. What about the robots? I mean, that's the other area that I expect to hear a lot more about at South by. I was just at Web Summit a couple months ago. There were robots wandering the convention hall and doing the Macarena and other weird things that I saw. There was the caninoid robot that was crawling around, and I was like, oh yeah, that's freaky. I've seen that Black Mirror episode, but I'm bullish on robots like Waymo, self-driving cars. They don't look like humans. They don't look like dogs. But I think we're going to hear a bunch about robots that resemble us in some way. What do you want to see there?
Is it the human factor that bothers you? Like,
I just don't think we need. I think to your point just a second ago about like, it's an old paradigm. Like, I'm not saying like the human shape is fine for humans. I don't know why it's beneficial for robots to be human shaped. Unless, and this gets a little bit to the robot choreography, maybe like there's some like I need to like look into the machine's quote unquote eyes, like C-3PO or something, and then we can have a relationship, and I trust it more because it's like it has a face. Basically, people trust things that have faces. Although there's of course the uncanny valley of like this is a face, but it's not really a face.
It's not really a face.
I just think we're like chasing the Jetsons, and so like Elon Musk and his what is he combined every single company and like they've pivoted to, Tesla factories are now going to make humanoid robots. Like why?
Why?
I don't get the why on like humanoid specifically.
I don't get it either. I mean, I think it's short-term thinking around the future. I saw a video the other day from a really reputable source, Instagram. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. And there was a robot on there dancing, and it was dancing way better than I can dance. And I was like, really? You're coming for that? You
Yeah.
know, I think it's short-term thinking because it's like, man, I can get this machine to do this thing better than I can. Cool. And then what?
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah,
probably helps raise money, right? 'Cause
I
it's
think,
like,
yeah,
wow,
there's
look
a
how
wow
amazing this
factor.
thing is. It's
There's
storytelling. Actually, I mean, related to the Beth Shapiro,
yes,
like
thank you. I was just
Colossal,
about
like
to
they
say
tell
this.
stories, and so the reason we didn't explain this very well, the reason the moonshot came up in my conversation with Beth is they're de-extincting animals. They've de-extincted the dire wolf. They're working on the woolly mammoth, the Tasmanian tiger, and the dodo. And in each
Mhm.
of these cases, there are discoveries that they will make along the way that will benefit the ecosystems today, the species that are on Earth today. And there'll be all sorts of discoveries. One thing that's sort of an offshoot, like if a woolly mammoth is going to re-exist,
Mhm.
it will probably be born in a synthetic placenta. Like they're not going to have an elephant birth a soon-to-be woolly mammoth, which is what
I'm not a
happened with the
vet.
dire wolves. The dire wolves were
I
born
was
from a gray wolf. There was a
no,
surrogate mother gray wolf, and
and
so
they inject this
like
stuff. Yeah.
it like a synthetic. I think synthetic is the right word. Like a placenta, like an external placenta. Like
Mhm.
we can just like make babies or pick a species and we just put them in this like machine over here. Like that's an example of something that I think is coming out of what they're working
Which
on.
one
Whether or not we
could
ever
push
get a
back?
mammoth or not, we might get that like, not just incubator, but like birthinator. I don't know, whatever.
Someone could push back on that as well and just say, well, do we need to be? I understand the story that you're telling, but do we need to be creating babies in that way? You know, and then I guess there could be a counter argument to, well, if we fall into a children of men scenario, where for some reason our population goes down because people aren't able to have children,
Uh-huh. What color would those men
successfully,
most likely be?
it'd be a perfect shade of tan. I think, like a deep, deep olive. Anyway, I don't know. That's a really random question. How everybody wants to be tan, but nobody wants to be black.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that I tagging this back to the humanoids, if you're using that same logic, we're showing, I mean, it's a money play. We're showing that we can create these robots that can do all these things. But one of these things that we're talking about, and which is like a tie into Amazon, we can create these robots that can work in our factories and get you your items even quicker because there are no breaks. There are no strikes. We can generate as much as you need to buy, and we can get it to you within, 20 minutes instead of like 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
I
still
think
waiting on my
that's
FAFO hat. You get yours yet?
no, I got to be
Didn't
honest. I
order
was
from
looking forward to
Amazon, of
wearing
course.
it. I was looking forward to wearing it on this taping. I was gonna be like, man,
Yeah.
FAFO, and
Yeah.
blah
We
blah
got some
blah,
merch
and you
coming,
don't have
people.
this,
Futureround.com. We got merch. It's coming.
but you have to build demand, and that's us wearing
There
it
you
in the
go.
podcast.
That's exactly
You know
right.
what I mean?
Tell me about going back in the Wayback Machine on South by. Things you learned about. You and I have been going for 10 something years now. What are things that like you were ahead of the curve because you learned about it there? I'm curious if memories come to you or just interesting, absurd, whatever.
Oh man, that's a good one. Oh, okay. The thing that I learned that I feel has been the most impactful for me is there was this, and I didn't even go to this session, which is annoying. I had to watch it afterwards. Do you know who Charles Duhigg is? Have we talked about him?
We haven't talked about
That,
him, but the former New York Times former New York Times person.
yeah, he
Definitely.
did a session for
Yeah.
his book Super Communicators.
Uh-huh.
That has been so impactful to me, in whether it be in the tech space or just connecting with people. The thing about it is sort of this concept that facts alone will not will not empower people to change their opinions or the way that they move through the world.
Ooh, if only.
Being able, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the idea of being able to allow people to preserve their identity, which their personas, which most of their facts align to. So giving them the space to preserve who they are as people and change their mind. And so it's not about bludgeoning them with like, and this is why you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong, because the reaction to that is, no, but I'm right, and this is why, and I'm going to hold on to that.
Yep.
Instead, doing the opposite of like, well, I understand why you feel about this, and being able to ask them questions where they're allowed to shift their thinking. I feel like that empowers people to adopt technology, that empowers people to understand different ideologies, to be more understanding of one another. And that, full circle, that is the human factor of technology that I'm really interested in these days. And that was something, I think 2 to 3 years ago, that, I like shout out to my buddy Luca. He was like, I'm saving you a seat. I'm like, nah, I'm in this robotics session. And the robotics session wasn't that great. And I went and, afterwards I watched the session. I was like, this is fantastic. I've legit bought that book for 7 people.
Okay.
What about you? What were you early on?
I knew you'd flip that on me, and I still don't have a great answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard question.
It is a hard question. Definitely not Bitcoin. I remember being, this is not South by, but I remember like, I don't know, 2011 or so, which is when I first started going to South by, so it would have been there. But I remember in Dumbo, there was some, maybe it's like a Bitcoin ATM, like back that early. Like that was back when someone like bought a pizza with like 3 Bitcoin that today are worth whatever today's price is. I don't know, $200,000 or something. I mean, I don't know. I remember, I was there at that same era, like the Foursquare year, the Group Me year.
No one knows what Group Me and Group Me is
Group
anymore.
Me, yeah,
no one
Group
knows.
Me, early group chat app, subsequently acquired by Skype, which was acquired like an hour later by Microsoft. So, and I actually, fun fact, used to share an office with Group Me when I was at a totally different startup. We shared the same office. I didn't even know who they were. I knew that they were growing quickly because they kept adding seats. So I was in their office for a little while. I don't know. I mean, this is, I feel like it's the people I've met along the way. I guess that's really what
good
South
answer.
By is. Yeah,
that's a good answer.
Yeah, it's a little cheesy, but that is why I go to South by. It is. I can listen to podcasts. I can read articles. I don't go to conferences to learn per se. I go because I want to meet people. That's not the case at the very first South by that I went to when I was switching from my public radio career into what has turned into like a tech career, and now I'm back in audio world anyway, or video world. But so I went the very first year. I went to learn. I was like, what is this thing? And also frankly, going to Texas in March is pretty nice.
I remember the first time I did that, especially coming from New York. It is amazing. You're like, wait a minute, there's tacos and there's sun?
I literally
had that.
It's great.
I had that realization that it was the weather, my first South by, that I was really in love with, where I was like, maybe I should move to Austin. Yeah. It was the weather.
My very first one, I stayed on a literal goat ranch on the outskirts of town with a bunch of people. Yes, is the team that runs the Social Media Week was a conference, I think past tense. They've since moved on. They're part of Ad Week now. But the founder of Social Media Week rented a ranch for 40 people. And I slept in a sleeping bag on the floor somewhere. And there were I'm such a city kid. This is before I lived outside the city. There was a hen house outside. I went and fetched eggs in the morning and cooked the freshest eggs I'd ever had in my life.
That's nice.
There were goats up on a ridge with the sunset. I have these incredible photos of all of us city people in our, in our city slicker clothes, tramping around the goat poop and with the goats and hanging out. That was my first year, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'll always come. And then I went 3 years in a row. Then I had a kid, and that didn't go for a long time.
Yep.
And my job didn't, I was at the New York Times and elsewhere. There was no reason for me to go for my job. And now, much like the Chicago Bulls, I'm about to complete my second three-peat. So I went 3 years in a row, 10, 11, and 12, and this will now be my third year in a row again. Third with you.
That is painful. You're a Knicks fan. I don't know why you had to do that. Just
Sorry.
I'm raising my eyebrow for a different reason right now. Because that is
multiple three-peats. And I'm just trying to say, I was so proud of myself last week, and I'll break the fourth wall a little bit. I made a comment about Jalen Brunson and how his turning down money and staying with the Knicks is like Anthropic turning down the Pentagon and like doing what's right or doing what feels good or whatever. And I was so proud of myself that I said something reasonably smart about basketball, because I don't follow basketball that closely. So like, that's another victory lap. I just took a second victory lap, but it made me really happy.
So when this airs, the day that this airs, and you know this, I will be in Denver watching the Knicks with my daughter, or I will be in Denver to watch the Knicks with my daughter. Because of my daughter, I follow the Knicks religiously now because she's really into them. All right, we are rounding the corner of this FAFO Friday. There are a couple of things I want to make sure that we touch base on. Regulatory environments for technology, past, present, or future.
I just think that's just all three. All three.
Okay. Let me. Is it trending more towards a thing of the past?
Oh, like more regulation or less regulation? Is that sort of what you're getting at?
As far as like, yes, we're going to use regulation to limit technology. Do you feel that it's trending more?
Well, I'm gonna parse a little bit. In Europe, it is definitely more present and future, to the point of there's. Of possible overreach. I know a lot of European founders are not thrilled with what's happening in Brussels right now. I don't know enough about exactly the bill, but there's something pending in European Congress right now. In America, like it's just like in America, it's it's FAFO. There's no regulation happening right now. State by state, maybe. Barge. Like California has typically been like our. I don't know, cars are like the reason we have like clean cars is because of California regulation. You know this better than I do than federal stuff. But even there, like the Trump administration has tried to pass a law. They failed, but it's come back. They've tried to pass a lot of prevent states from regulating AI, which on the one hand makes sense because you don't want like 50 different regimes. But on the other hand, like kind of like you, like if you're not going to do it, then I don't mind if California or others like try some things. Sometimes it's interesting when the states like experiment with laws and then we figure out what's a good one that we can apply nationally. So those are just the two areas that I know the best. I mean, actually in Australia banned social media for everyone 16 and under or under 16, I think. So
I'm not mad at that.
I think America actually is maybe an outlier in the less regulation camp, and maybe other areas it's more future there. I don't know. That's my hot take.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a solid hot take. The other question I was going to ask, but it's not really a question, it's more of a prediction. It's the idea of, because you sparked this idea, self-driving cars talking to infrastructure.
Oh yeah. Well, they're going to talk to each other.
The Internet of Things.
That's the whole dream,
talk to
right?
each other. But also talking to traffic lights.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, there's
right. They just make their
button.
own wave. They make their own wave.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. The wave is designed like the wave of like red lights that turn green as you go at exactly whatever it is, 25 miles an hour. That is designed for human drivers. But you're totally right. If it's, I mean, at a certain point, we're nowhere close to there. But at a certain point, human drivers may be banned from the roads, right? I don't know if it's like 10, 20, 50, 300 years from now, but at a certain point, like it'll be more dangerous to have an unpredictable human among a sea of autonomous vehicles because they won't.
I don't think it's banned. I think you're right, but I don't think it's banned. No?
Inconvenient.
Okay, we're not playing
because I can't look at my phone if I'm driving. It's so much more fun to look at my phone than to drive, right? So maybe that's why people are just like, it's more time to look at my phone.
I think it's going to become cost prohibitive. It will be so expensive to insure a human driver. I don't think they'll ever pass a law, or maybe they will, like 30 to 50 years. But I think what will happen first is insurance companies will be like,
maybe Singapore.
All right, great.
I could see Singapore being the like place where this starts. Because first of all, the traffic there is hellacious. And not that I've been, but I've read about it. And by the way, speaking of like pro-regulation places, they're very pro-regulation there.
Oh, yep. You don't want to mess around over there. Speaking of a FAFO city, there it is. All right, that's it. Right. I'm done.
All right.
I'm done.
You know what I should have led with? I forgot to say. You know how I got like other than you like provoking me at the beginning of this. You know how I got psyched up for today's conversation? I had a
No.
breakfast taco this morning. I'm like getting
Did you?
in the spirit.
Oh,
yeah.
you're getting in shape.
It's a
Okay,
little early, but my wife and I, we had Mexican food last night. We didn't finish it, and I was like, yeah, I'll have a breakfast taco today. Like that's perfect for getting amped up here. So I'm looking forward to that. Taco Deli is going to see a lot of me next
Taco
week.
Deli.
If I'm speaking to you, the listener now, if y'all are in, there you go. Now I'm in Texas apparently. If you're in Texas, if you're
a y'all out of nowhere. I've never heard you use the word y'all, but you're like Taco
if
Deli.
you
If
guys are in Austin, we want to see you. All right. We're going to get together. I think we're figuring out which night, but we're going to do a future round and find out night out. So please hit me up on LinkedIn or drop me a line. I'll put my email address in the show notes. Like I said, futureround.com is where to find all things Future Round and find out FAFO Friday related. Kwaku, always fun. I got to go get some kids to school. Fun. They have a delayed school opening
gotta go.
for the bajillionth time.
Yeah.
Enjoy your 81 degrees in San Diego, though.
Okay. For your information.
Is it only 79 today? I'm sorry.
It's a brisk 68 today.
Do you have a sweater?
You just did an impression of me. Oh. Oh, is that what that feels like?
That's brutal.
My kids, well, they hear it. They're like, "Oh, we know you're doing the podcast because we just hear you cackling through the walls."
Oh my God! All right, amigo. I will see you very soon in Austin.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
All right.
Till next time.
Peace.
Hope that was fun for you. If you've made it this far, I'm going to guess that it was. Please share this episode with a friend. This is truly the way that podcasts grow. You can send them to futurearound.com. That's also where you can sign up for the show's newsletter. Again, that's futurearound.com.